President Trump has signed legislation requiring his administration to release files on convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. This new law requires the Justice Department to release all files and communications related to Epstein within 30 days. Scripps News Deputy Political Director Joe St. George joins us now live from Capitol Hill. And Joe, I think a lot of people thought this day would never come. But what do we know about when something might be released, who would be releasing it, what might be in there? Catch us up to date, if you would.
More questions than answers this morning. The headline is that this law is now the law of the land, and the Trump administration, the government, has 30 days, the clock's officially started, to provide more transparency for the public, not just related to Jeffrey Epstein, but also associates of Jeffrey Epstein. The president signed this last night. That starts the clock last night. That puts us somewhere 30 days from now, December 19th, as Politico pointed out. Happy holiday reading. But remember, there are a number of carve-outs in this legislation. Some call them loopholes that will allow the Department of Justice and the Attorney General to still withhold certain documents. And where I'm at this morning, there's a great deal of skepticism, especially from Democrats, that the Trump administration, the Department of Justice, will actually release all the documents that really survivors and victims and those that have been interested in this story for years are calling for. Reason number one is that the Trump administration, Department of Justice, could have done this on their own without a congressional involvement, without a new law, and yet they did not. And there was, in fact, a changing of tone from the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, the director of the FBI, late spring, early summer this year. Remember, these are individuals who for years talked about releasing all the Epstein files, and then there was that restriction limits. So that's the expectation here, is that the Attorney General of the United States will not necessarily be forthcoming, although the law is the law, right? I mean, if before you could not release them for X, Y, and Z, but now there is a law in the land here. But again, remember, there is a carve-out that says if there are active investigations ongoing, if something's being looked into by the FBI, it does give the Attorney General, the Department of Justice, some leeway to say, no, not those particular documents. The Attorney General was asked about this yesterday repeatedly by reporters at a press conference. Here's what she said.
We have released over 33,000 Epstein documents to the Hill, and we'll continue to follow the law and to have maximum transparency. Also, we will always encourage all victims to come forward. There's new information, additional information, and again, we will continue to follow the law.
If you were watching that press conference live, Attorney General Pam Bondi was asked many questions from reporters about the Epstein files, but essentially that was the same answer for every question. We don't know if these are going online. We don't know if these are going to be boxes that are just going to be dumped somewhere and that this will have to be scanned by regular Americans. I mean, we don't have a full process here of what exactly and how this is going to be distributed to the public. But that last answer from the Attorney General, she said the word new information. That's being picked up by many and saying, wait a minute, maybe new information means new investigations, therefore a lack of transparency or a lack of release of certain documents maybe on the horizon. Recall what President Trump said last week. He said on Truth Social that he wants the DOJ to investigate Democrats and alleged ties with Jeffrey Epstein. The president did post on Truth Social relating to his signing of the bill. I just want to read that real quickly. It was a lengthy post, but the president did say late last night, the bill to release, I have just signed the bill to release the Epstein files, in all caps, exclamation point. As everyone knows, I asked Speaker of the House Mike Johnson and Senate Majority Leader John Thune to pass this bill in the House and Senate respectfully. Because of this request, the votes were almost unanimous in favor of passage at my direction. The Department of Justice has already turned over close to 50,000 pages of documents to Congress. And do not forget, the Biden administration did not turn over a single file or page related to Democrat Jeffrey Epstein. A lengthy post. You can read more of it for yourself on the President Truth Social post. But it's important to remember, history may document this vote and this signing into law as being very bipartisan. You only had one person in the House of Representatives vote against this. It was passed unanimously in the Senate and signed by the president. But as you pointed out at the top, Holly, this was a fight for victims and survivors of Jeffrey Epstein that took many, many years. And this time last week, we were talking about the Republican pushback to do this. So even though there certainly looks like a lot of bipartisanship on this issue, this was a divisive issue for so many years.
And Joe, you know, let's just sort of look ahead a little bit. Depending on what they say they can and cannot disclose, in the midterm elections, if we should see a shift in Congress, could there be more pressure and scrutiny on these files, say if the Democrats get control of Congress, to release more information if they feel Republicans are stalling? Is there any recourse if some members of Congress feel like, you know what, you're not being completely forthcoming?
Well, this is going to be a political issue, right? Democrats have health care. They're going to run on that. They have affordability. They're going to run on that. And Democrats here in Washington are already saying they're going to keep pressure on the Trump administration. If they don't feel like this law that was signed by the president last night is truly being followed, that too much is being withheld, they're going to make that part of their 2026 campaign pitch to the American people. But let's just be realistic here. I mean, the president, given the fact he has so much influence, more influence than any president in modern times in the Department of Justice, given the fact that he's instructed the Department of Justice on social media to investigate Democrats, the political nature of this is it's more likely that Democratic names, individuals tied to the Democratic Party, may see a document drop as opposed to others. I mean, that's just the political realities at this moment. And what did we see in the last several days? Larry Summers. He's a longtime Democratic economist, someone who was a Treasury Secretary to President Bill Clinton, an economic advisor to Barack Obama, appeared for numerous years on television to discuss the economy. He's taught at Harvard, a member of many boards. His name was mentioned in Epstein-related documents. He has stepped back and resigned from various boards. This morning, he stepped back from teaching at Harvard. He was corresponding with Jeffrey Epstein, asking for romantic advice on how to woo a coworker at the time. So Larry Summers has been brought into this, and I bring that up because that's an example. This story, we don't know where it's going to go. We don't know who else is going to be caught up in this Jeffrey Epstein saga. One thing we do know, Holly, this story is far from being over. Now the question again is when and how much does the Department of Justice release?